Welcome, everyone. Good afternoon. Thank you for joining us today for Wellness Strategies for Effective Leaders. I'm Eileen Lafergie with OJJDP's NTAC. A few things, we are recording this webinar and we will post it on OJJDP's multimedia page and YouTube page. Some tips, closed captioning is available in the multimedia panel. If you're having any audio issues, you can use the Call Me feature in WebEx. If you're having any technical difficulties, you can message me or Trevor Wolf. Questions will be addressed during the Q&A session after the presentation. A certificate of attendance and a PDF of the slides will be sent out afterwards. I also wanted to mention that we're going to have a feedback survey at the end. We'd really appreciate if you filled it out so that we can improve our webinars to better serve you. So help us count. If you're by yourself, no need to type anything. But if you're viewing as a group, please go to the chat and type in how many people are joining you. A brief overview of the agenda. The moderator is Michelle Sipple, who I'll introduce next, and then followed by presentations and Q&A. So I'm going to hand it over to Michelle now.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here today. My name is Michelle Sipple, and I'm the program coordinator for SHIFT here at the Innocent Justice Foundation. The Innocent Justice Foundation was founded in 2007, and we are funded by OJJDP. We are here to support ICAC task force teams and their affiliates and hope that we can provide some tips for them to mitigate their stress. Throughout our relationship, we have understood the heavy burden that law enforcement officers have to face, and we want to provide them with a space where they can have some tools to mitigate the stress and normalize asking for help. Today's webinar is part 3 of our leadership series, and we will be discussing wellness strategies for effective leaders. I will be keeping an eye on the chat, so if any questions come to mind during, feel free to put those in there, and I will relay them to our trainers in the end. I will now turn over to our amazing trainers, and it is such a pleasure for me to be here with them. We have Dave and Carol to introduce themselves. I will mute myself and be available in the chat.
Thank you, Michelle.
Could you move the slide
Certainly.
forward?
Go ahead, Carol.
I was just going to ask her if she'd move the slides forward to our introductions. I think you're going first, so feel free.
Thank you, Carol. As Michelle said, Dave Ferteri. I've been in law enforcement for 26 years now, and only within the last, I want to say 8 or 9 years, have I had the pleasure of working with the Innocent Justice Foundation. I've done internet crimes against children for the better part of 17 years now, and for all the success that we have had as a task force program, we really faltered when it came to mental health and wellness. And so it was imperative at some point that we partner with an organization like the Innocent Justice Foundation to really figure out a strategy, a way to move forward when dealing with mental health and wellness, and some things that we could do to really take care of our folks. Because I enjoy, as much as I enjoy internet crimes against children, I really enjoy talking about this topic. I think it's so very important that we as first responders, law enforcement officers, anyone that's working in social service organizations, understand how important it is to really take care of yourself, to have some tools, some techniques, some things that you can do, not only as an individual working, but also in some cases as a leader, ways to make yourself better and ways that you can be an effective leader. So I'm thrilled to be here today. Carol?
Yeah, thank you. And we're having a little bit of technical difficulty on the with the slides, but we're going to get that taken care of. So, yeah, great. There we go. Okay, ask and you shall receive. So this is me. My name is Carol Brusca, and I'm not going to go into that whole long, drawn-out introduction there. I am the New Mexico Attorney General Office's mental health provider, but I work with the task force members themselves, and I support them in the hard work that they're doing. And so I can have a level of appreciation of what they experience, and I also work very, very closely with the commander, whoever the commander is at the time, to support them so they can support the team. That's one of the things that I've really appreciated about the people, the leaders in our task force, because they recognize the importance of well-being and of mental health, and they're calling me in to support the team, and so it makes it easier for the team to then reach out for help. And the other piece of that is that as leaders, they reach out for help to me, and then the team sees that, so they recognize that it's okay to ask for help. So I think that works out really well for our particular team. The leaders role model the importance of mental health. That holds the space open then for the task force members to ask for help. And so I think it's helped our team in particular be able to survive the difficult work and then keep on moving on. So I'm glad that I'm here today. Excited to train again with Dave. We love to do our tag team thing here. So I'm excited, and we'll just go ahead and move on.
You know, and one of the many benefits of the Innocent Justice Foundation is just the number or the wide range of programs that we offer. And, you know, we've done hundreds of different presentations over the years, a number of different topics. One of the slides that has never changed is this slide right here, because it's so important that right off the bat, we smash that stigma. We talk about this idea that it's okay to, you know, talk about your mental health and wellness. It's, you know, for years frowned upon in the law enforcement community, where when somebody had an issue, coworkers would just run for the hills. They do anything they could not to talk about the problem, or coworkers or employees were concerned about, do I talk to my boss about the things that are affecting me? Do I admit that I'm not as tough as I thought I was and that I'm not ready to go out on this warrant? Can I even reach out to my employee assistance program or a mental health professional and talk about some of the things that I'm dealing with? We've tried so hard over the years, and that's where these organizations like the Innocent Justice Foundation come in, to be able to set aside that stigma and let individuals, first responders, social service agency workers know that it's okay to talk about these issues, and also that we're all dealing with similar things.
And so this picture is one of my favorite ones. We added this every year. We get together to talk about curriculum and how we can make things better. And we learn a lot from the evaluations that we receive. And so when at the end of this presentation, there will be an opportunity for you to give us an evaluation, to give us feedback. And we really do take that to heart. And because of the feedback that we got, we added in this slide that as you can see, it's got different coats. I would imagine they're different sizes, different styles, but they're all used to keep us warm and dry. And we like to think of ourselves in that same way. We are all humans, but we are all very different, and we have different perspectives, and we come from different backgrounds, and we have different, probably different views on things, but we recognize that when we're speaking, we can only speak from our perspective. It doesn't mean that we don't appreciate and honor other perspectives, but I cannot speak from Dave's perspective as someone living in Ohio, a man who's married with, you know, several children. I am a single mom in New Mexico with one grown son. So my perspective is going to be different. I'm a mental health provider versus Dave being law enforcement. So although we are similar in the fact that we're both here on this presentation today, we are very, very different. And we welcome people's perspectives if they have a perspective that is different than what we're saying and that you would like to share with us as a part of helping everyone understand the topic that we're talking about today.
And Carol, I think that's an important concept, and I like the analogy of that, because, you know, you may try on a coat and that coat is not a good fit for your organization or for your staff. I mean, when we developed our mental health program so many years ago, we knew we had to try on a number of different coats before we found one that fit for us. And that included, you know, talking to our folks and talking to a mental health professional. Because you're absolutely right. What works for you or what works for one agency may not work for another, may not be a good fit for another agency. So, you know, I would say don't get discouraged if you're creating a program, if you're a leader who's trying to develop some sort of program because you have issues surrounding mental health, wellness, retention, those things. Understand that it may be a little bit of a process to get it to be a good fit, because ultimately that's what you want at the end of the day, is a program that works not only for you but for your agency and your personnel.
That's a great point. Okay, so the objectives, the things that we're going to cover today. We're going to look at how to become an effective leader. And even if you are currently in the field doing ICAC work, the skills about the effective leadership skills are skills that you can use in whatever position you have. These are not definitely, these are aimed today at ICAC, but these skills are things that are you can use in any industry. We're going to discuss the importance of wellness for success while in a leadership role. So what does it take as far as wellness? And then learn about the importance of self-compassion, and then understand the steps needed to create an effective and resilient team. So that's what we're going to talk about today. So what is self-care? When I train on self-care and self-compassion, I try to distinguish between what those are. We hear so much about you need to have more self-care, you need to do self-care. And it gets to be this thing that doesn't even really have the value anymore, I think, that it used to. And my philosophy has always been that if you want to do self-care, you have to have self-compassion. So self-care is the acts that you do. Self-compassion is how you feel about yourself. So if I feel that I'm not worthy of taking care of myself, then I'm going to think of self-care as something that's indulgent, something that I do that I really don't deserve, and it's something where I'm spoiling myself. When in actuality, self-care really is the important things that we do to keep our cup filled, to keep our own cup filled, so we can continue to do the work. So it's any activity we do to increase our feelings of well-being and decrease our feelings of stress. So I want to ask you, do you treat yourself as well as you treat your best friend, your family, your spouse? When you think about that question and think about, yes, I do, or no, I don't. And if you don't, I would highly encourage you to pay attention today to the things that you can do to increase your self-care.
Yeah, and I talked to a number of coworkers who are some of the most wonderful people in the world when it comes to, their coworkers, family, friends, their children, their significant other, but they are not taking care of themselves. They're not recognizing that at the same time they need to, to work on themselves. And I think that's the real importance of self-care, is that, if we're not taking care of ourselves, how are we going to keep doing this work? I mean, I've done internet crimes against children for the last 17 years straight now. And the federal grant that we work under prohibits us from doing anything other than child exploitation, child abuse type cases dealing with the internet. So that work is increasing tenfold every single year. So we need something more than just to say, let's throw more people at it. Let's throw more money at it. Let's, get better technology. All those factors are not going to help us overcome the mental and emotional toll that this work is taking on us. So, we need to be mindful of this idea of self-care and the things that we can do. And I saw a number of questions that were submitted that had to do with, how do you get teams to, to buy into this or to be better about mental health and wellness? You do that by being a leader and setting that as something that's important to you. Okay, when we set a mental health program in place, I was the first guy to go to a session. I was the first guy to say, we're going to do a group session. When the leaders, when the frontline folks realize that mental health and wellness is a priority, it becomes an easier sell to the organization and to the agency. If the boss is not involved with these things, then it's gonna stop, or it's gonna falter before it even gets started. And I think ultimately all of us are concerned about not necessarily our work life, but our home life, right? I mean, if you're a rock star at work but not at home, self-care will help you, focus on what's really important. It took me a long time to realize that work was not as important as my home life. When internet crimes started becoming a thing in the early 2000s, I went from a little fish to a big fish overnight in terms of the work that we were doing because internet suddenly started becoming, the thing that everybody was paying attention to. And at that very time, my personal life started to fall apart because I was more concerned with what was going on at work and the success that I was having there. It was only, within the last 6 or 7 years that when I started to finally realize the importance of self-care and resilience and mental health to take care of myself, that, things on the personal and the home life started to greatly improve. So, your bosses, your management don't want to hear this, but I mean, personally, I think that, self-care, this idea of good mental health is perhaps the most important thing that you can do as a coworker, as an individual, as a leader. Because if your folks are not where they need to be emotionally and mentally, everything else is gonna suffer.
Right, and to go off of what Dave was saying, self-care is something, like it says here, it keeps your energy levels up. How does it do that? Well, in the mental health field, we have this concept that we talk about, and it's the emotional bank account. And when we talk about the emotional bank account, what we always say is we have to make sure that we don't get overdrawn in our emotional bank account. So it's just like a regular bank account. If I have X amount of dollars in my bank account and I keep giving to other people because I see they're in need and I'm not doing anything to refill that bank account, what's going to happen is eventually I'm going to be overdrawn, and then I have nothing to give to anybody else or to myself. So that definitely can be an issue because who's going to give to me then? So I need to make sure it's part of my everyday plan to do something for self-care. It is not an indulgent thing to do. It's not something that that I would consider selfish. It's not narcissistic. It's just like maintenance on, does anybody say to you, oh, wow, you're really selfish because you do maintenance on your car? Does anybody say you're really narcissistic because you make sure that your plumbing and heating are working? No, those are the things that we do just normally to keep our car running, to keep our house running smoothly. So that's what self-care is. Self-care is just the acts that we do to keep our body, ourself, our mind, our soul going in the direction that it needs to. So our energy levels are up because when our own cup is filled, then we have more energy to do the things that we want. We're not feeling like we have nothing left to give. We're not feeling exhausted. We're not feeling physically or mentally exhausted. It allows you to gain perspective as well. And what we mean by that is when you're feeling better, you are not feeling like you're drowning and overwhelming and can't do one more thing. And it allows you to gain the perspective of thinking, okay, what is it that I need? What is it the people around me need? What can I do to become better at the things that are important to me? And it helps to keep you calm, cool, and collected. And it does this by when you are, just like when your car is well tuned and it's well maintained and the tires are full and there's plenty of tread and the engine is working, well, your car is calm, cool, and collected, right? You get on the road, you have confidence that it's going to run for a long time without any knocking and banging and swerving. Same thing for us. When our maintenance is taken care of and we are in a position to be the best that we can, we're going to be calm, cool, and collected. We're not going to be always worried about, what happens if? The people that aren't so likely to take care of themselves, there could potentially be a fear. What if I get sick? What's going to happen? What if I know I'm running myself into the ground? What if I have a heart attack? Or what if I have a stroke? Or what if something else happens to me? But if you're taking care of doing your self-care, those can help mitigate some of those consequences. And part of that self-care really should be going in to see your physical doctor annually just to get a checkup and going in and getting a mental health checkup, whether that's with a therapist that's part of your team, or whether that's just going in for a checkup to an EAP therapist, just saying, hey, this is what's going on, and I'm just looking to see if there's any strategies that I might be using to help decrease my stress or help increase my happiness, or just how can I work on my self-care. None of those things are selfish or narcissistic or greedy. All of those things actually make you more able to do things for other people.
And if you've been on the roads lately, Carol, as I know we all have, you know again why it's important to have that car that's in tip-top shape, because there are people next to you that are texting and driving, that are not paying attention, whose cars are falling apart. And again, I think that is why, when we can be well adjusted, when our self-care is where it needs to be, we are in a better position then to help those people that really need it, who are not taking it as understanding the importance of it as well as we are. So I think we have a chat question for you here. And for these chat questions, we're going to ask you to, put your answer in the chat box there. And then we'll just discuss some of those answers as they come in here. So this question is going to be, what do you currently do for your own self-care? I think we have that on
that's that's the next slide. If we could move to the next slide. Yep, thank you.
Yeah, what do you do currently for self-care or to self-care? Take a few moments, as I said, just to kind of put some of your answers in the chat box there, if you don't mind. Okay, exercise, very good. Taking time off work, something that we all should be able to do. Oftentimes we don't.
Mm-hmm.
Time with pets, meditation,
Gardening.
massage. I saw somebody that cries in there again.
Yep.
Sometimes you got to let it out, right? Laugh, cry.
Yep. Pets. Spending time with pets. I love to spend time with my pets. Right now, they're not in here. They were roughhousing this morning, so they're all laying down sleeping. But nothing better than having your pets around. Hanging out with friends, good one. Yep. Exercise. I see a lot of exercise on these replies, and that's a wonderful self-care. And that's something that you can do alone. You can do it with family members, so you can have bonding time as well as exercise time. So exercise is a great one that will help you release that stress. It will be increasing, your health at the same time. So exercise is always going to be a great one. Meditation is something. Nature, being outdoors is a wonderful way to positively stimulate our senses. So that's good. The disconnect, that is great. Yep, not checking email and phone, wonderful. Family time. Exercise, spirituality. Spirituality is very important as well. Yeah. Great. Thank you all for replying. Some great answers.
And a lot of those are solo things, right? So if you have a family, if you have significant others in your life, don't feel as though you can't take some time for yourself. Okay. I think that's extremely important. You work 8-10 hours a day, you come home, you feel like, hey, now it's family time. Now it's time with the kids. I got to spend time with my significant other. We'll talk about hobbies a little later, right? Things that you can do that are a lot of these good things that I saw here in the chat window that you can do that are just you. Get away from it all and take some time just for yourself.
Right. And the best thing to do is kind of figure out what that balance looks like for you. So for me, I like to spend time with my family, absolutely, but I really cherish the time that it's just me, because I need that, where I don't have to engage in anything. I can just go off and be totally by myself. And even though my family is very rewarding and part of my self-care, sometimes it's just me and the dog, or just me by myself. Okay, let's see. Thank you. So how do you become self-aware to know when it's time to do that tune-up, to do that self-care? Pay attention to what your body is telling you. This is always important. I like to check in with myself every morning before I get up out of bed. First thing I do, I wake up and I kind of do a check. So how are my muscles feeling? What kind of mood am I in? Because I might have gone to bed in a good mood, and for some bizarre reason I wake up in a bad mood, or vice versa. So I check in with myself. What is my mental health telling me? What is my body telling me? What do I need that day? So maybe I need, instead of just a quick stretch, I need 15 minutes of yoga that morning. And then I constantly do that throughout the day, because I might not notice how I'm feeling, but my body will let me know. My body says there's some tension in your shoulders. There's some, you've been clenching your teeth all day long. And then that's an indicator for me, oh yeah, something's bugging me, or I need some stress management, or I need to go take that walk or pet my dog or something. So paying attention to your body is very, very important. Paying attention to your responses to others. So what does that mean? If I'm being snippy with somebody, if I see that person and I just have this swell of love in my heart and I'm happy to see them, that's very different than if I see that exact same person and I just want to snap at them. So if I'm in that mood where I'm feeling like I want to snap at them or I just don't want them around, that's an indicator that I need to pay attention to. So how am I responding to others, and then how are people responding to me? I might not even be aware that I'm kind of in a snippy, grumpy mood, but when people are avoiding me or they're doing that, I can tell they're walking on eggshell thing, I need to pay attention to that and say, what part of this is me and what do I need to do? Do I need to take that time right now to spend some time in self-care?
And I think, can you slow down, right? Too often we, jump from one thing to the next. And what I've started doing in the mornings, right? I have a 30-minute commute. Usually when I get in the car, I'm feeling good. The commute obviously adds some stress. I get to work, I see some emails in the parking lot. What I've started to do is basically give myself 5 or 10 minutes in the car to really take stock of, like, how am I feeling right now? What am I going to project outward when I get there? People used to tell me that the minute I walked in the door, they would be able to tell how the day was going to go as far as my mood and, how I was feeling. So I take stock of that in the car. I sit there and I think to myself, all right, what's the day hold? What did I encounter on the way to work? What do I got to do later? Because I used to just jump out of the car, go upstairs, and begin my 8-hour day. Um, but when you really become more self-aware and you start to look at more about yourself, both internally and externally, as opposed to always just thinking about everybody else and not necessarily, having an idea of what you are projecting out there to the real world.
And Dave, I think that's such a key thing to think about. So, if you take that 2, 5, 3 minutes, however long it takes for you to kind of do that inventory of yourself before you get out of the car, that can save hours of backtracking or apologizing or something else if you get into the office and you're feeling grumpy. If you just check yourself and say, what do I need today? How am I doing? What's on the schedule? What do I need to do to make this day the best I can, as opposed to what you used to do, which is just get out of the car and go for it. And then if you're in a mood, which all of us have mood, we've all got our days, and then you end up saying something that you think later on, oh, I got to go apologize for that. Or I was so hasty that I did something that I need to make up for. And so by doing that 5-minute check-in in the morning, I imagine you save lots and lots of time on backtracking or correcting or apologizing for the rest of the day. So what do we, when to say when? So what are the indicators for you that you need to take some time for yourself for self-care? So for me, normally I wake up and I'm feeling pretty good. Typically I wake up and the dogs are staring at me because it's 4:45 and they want to get up and eat and I want 15 more minutes. But we start our day and I get up and I do my thing and I know there's a plan for the day. I check my calendar to see what's up and and then I just go about my day. And that's kind of how it normally is. You know, I don't have any intrusive thoughts. I don't have anything that's bothering me. I don't really have anything that's dragging me down. For me, a warning sign that I need to be doing more self-care might be something that that I notice that my temper's a little bit shorter, or by the end of the day, I feel like I'm kind of dragging, or I wake up in the morning and I feel like, you know, ugh, I wish that it was Friday, or I wish that it was Saturday. That's the kind of warning sign for me that I need to really consider doing some self-care. And so, am I having intermittent feelings of frustration or intermittent feelings of overwhelm? Am I having some time where mildly intrusive thoughts that are bothering me about my day, about things in my life? Am I worried about things that I might not otherwise be? Or trouble indicator days are the days when I just feel totally overwhelmed. And the ways that I notice that I'm in that trouble indicator mode is if I'm stuck in inertia. So I know I have a list of things to do, and I'm feeling so overwhelmed that I can't even begin to begin. And then when I can't begin to begin, it makes me more concerned, more overwhelmed, more worried, and that cycle continues. So I just try to pay attention. That's part of my morning check-in with myself. You know, how am I feeling? Am I feeling like I got it? You know, am I feeling like, yep, there's 15 things on my schedule, but I've got time for it, and I'm well rested, and I'm ready to go. Or, you know, I'm feeling a little bit draggy, and it feels like there's a lot to get done, and I'm not looking forward to it. Or am I stuck in inertia? And for me, some of the things that I do to really get myself going or to keep myself in a good place, for me, having a clean environment makes all the difference. So if I begin to feel like I'm getting stuck in inertia or overwhelmed, then the first thing I do, if I can't tackle the tasks that I have to do, I will clean my environment. Because if my environment feels cleaner, then, you know, so I make sure that the house is cleaned up, the laundry is done, all of those things are taken care of. So then at least the space around me feels like I've got some sense of control. And then the big things that I need to tackle seem more manageable. And then I come up with a list and I say, okay, these are the first things I need to get done, and these are the second things. And I actually make a list, because then when I cross them off, it feels a huge sense of relief. So again, normal indicator, I get up, things are going fine, my day's going great. Warning signs are when I'm a little bit hesitant, or maybe I wake up and my body's aching a little bit for no reason, or I'm feeling a little bit of resistance to doing things. Trouble indicator is when I'm just feeling totally overwhelmed. And that's when I know that I need to absolutely do some self-care, or even call in for some backup from my friends and say, hey, I need some help. And so, you know, another piece of that is not only monitoring our behaviors and monitoring how we're feeling, but monitoring the other things in our lives. So, you know, are there behaviors that you're doing that are very different from in one circumstance and another? So maybe when things are going well in your life and you're taking good care of yourself and life is, you know, you're on top of the world, then you might go have a drink to be sociable. So something you do very often, but when there's a celebration or there's somebody having a party, or maybe somebody's got a promotion, or you just had a rough week and you're all going to go hang out, and you go to the bar and you hang out with your coworkers, or maybe it's not, you know, you go to a restaurant and you hang out with your coworkers and you enjoy a drink or two, and then you go home and you're starting the next day. Well, that would be the normal, right? So maybe the warning side is then you're feeling like things are really rough, and so you're going to the bar by yourself. And maybe it's not every day, maybe it's a couple times a week, maybe it's only once a week, but you're by yourself, and that's not what is typical or normal for you. And then if you get to the point where you're in your car and you're drinking, that would probably, for the most of us, would be a big warning sign. you shouldn't be drinking and driving. And if you're to the point where you're sitting in your car by yourself because you need to be, because you're not feeling like you can take care of yourself and you can do the things you need to do, and you just want to numb yourself with alcohol, that's a huge, huge warning sign. So maybe for you, it's not alcohol. Maybe for you, it's isolating yourself. So you come home and you, instead of just spending an hour by yourself in the evening before you engage with your family, you notice that you're getting home from work and you're spending the rest of the evening by yourself. Or maybe you're noticing that instead of just watching TV for an hour, you're watching TV all night long just so you can numb out and not think about anything else. Thinking about all of the behaviors that you have and how those are changing is another really good indicator of when you need self-care and what you need for self-care. So pay attention to the behaviors that you're having so that you can notice, am I doing this behavior more, to a great extent more, or to a great extent less than I would be doing under normal circumstances when I'm feeling good?
And as you think about those indicators and, the importance of self-care, the idea that you're going to, take inventory or stock of your own, abilities or things that are going on, think about the boundaries that you're setting. Because ultimately, as leaders, we want to be there for our folks, and we want our folks to believe that we're there for them as well. But you need to set some boundaries. And, one of the best things that I think we can do is say no. And I know that sounds difficult to some of you. It was difficult to me for a number of years. I said yes to everything. I would, wanted to be there for people. I wanted to do things for people. I wanted to assist where I could as an investigator and be a part of absolutely every little thing there was. One of the first self-help books I ever read was a book by Robin Sharma, and it was called The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. And it's a great little read. It's based around this little fable, and there's a whole section on the power of saying no. And Robin basically says, say no to the little things in life so you can say yes to the big things. How often have you said yes to something so quick and then realize that you're cheating yourself from being able to do the things that you really want to do? So I would encourage you, after today, and I want you to do this, I want you to go home and practice in the mirror saying the word no out loud. Okay, and it's extremely difficult at times when you're faced with somebody who comes into your office and says, hey, I want to do this, and you say yes, and someone else says, I want to do this, and you say yes, and then you realize afterwards that you've given up all this time for yourself. You have no time to do with the things you want to do, not just at work but also at home as well. So now again, it says say no when appropriate. So for those of you that have a chain of command or taking orders from somebody else, obviously there's a right and a wrong time to say no. But if you really, again, think about it before you are quick to say yes all the time, you're going to find scenarios where saying no can work to your benefit. I think that is made easier by this idea of having realistic expectations or being able to delegate tasks when possible. Just the simple concept of recognizing that, we can't be all things to all people. And so, again, I think when you say no, especially, you then have time to, practice some of these self-care ideas or replenish yourself. What do you do to bring yourself happiness? We've talked for years about this idea of the things that we used to do. Okay, I know some of you probably have a used to list, right? I used to have a hobby. I used to spend more time with my family. I used to do things that I enjoyed, right? Now is the time to get back to those things, okay? A hobby does not have to be something you spend thousands of dollars on. It doesn't have to be something that you do every single day. But it should be something that brings you joy. For the last 15 years, I've been baking and decorating cakes with my daughter. because I used to have a hobby that was all about computers. And then I started working in computers and I realized that I didn't want a computer hobby. So my wife said to me one day, she said, "You need to come up with a new hobby." I just happened to be making a cake. And 15 years later, I'm making all kinds of cakes for all kinds of people. But just last year, my daughter went off to college. And I made one cake after she went to college, and I just didn't enjoy it anymore. And it was amazing how much joy it brought me when I was doing it with her, as opposed to when I was doing it myself and realized that it just, wasn't bringing me that joy or wasn't making me happy anymore. So um, I went out and spent thousands of dollars to become scuba certified. So now I scuba dive. And I have other hobbies and, things that force me to go out, take time for myself and, just find things that bring me happiness. So I think that's an important question for you, right? What do I do to bring myself happiness? Um, Sometimes it's just about breathing. Okay. And I know that sounds like that bullet point right there. Take time to just breathe. I mean, we're breathing every day, but how many of you are sitting at your computer while you're working or just as part of your job where you realize you're not breathing? You're holding your breath, you're clenching your jaw. I do it all the time. So much so that I now have a buddy, and this is the Buddha, this is my Buddha breathing buddy right here. I got him on eBay on Amazon, which is my new best friend also. And it's hard to see here, but he changes to 3 different colors. He goes from blue to purple to green. I inhale for 4 seconds, I hold it for 7 seconds, and then I exhale for 8 seconds. It's nice because he's very squeezy, and if I get angry, I can do some things to him. But I keep it right on my desk, and it reminds me when I look down at it to, as we say there, just take some time to breathe. Some of you mentioned exercise. Some of you mentioned sleep. I cannot exercise to save my life. I walk occasionally. I try and be active in some respects when I do yard work, and scuba diving obviously brings me some exercise as well. But obviously it's not for everybody. So, find something that you can do that keeps you moving or that is active in some sense. Do you play a sport? Are you a part of an intramural team? That can be very beneficial for you as well. And I think we'd all like to be that baby there in that photo, with the robe and the tea and just completely relaxed, right? I love that photo. But that can be difficult again. So, force yourself to sleep, force yourself to set some time aside at the end of the day or even the beginning of the day to do the things that are important to you, because I think that's the real idea behind replenishing yourself.
And then certainly spending time outside is going to be really important. If we can eat lunch outside, that's a fabulous way to replenish yourself, because you can sit outside and you can smell the grass, or you can see the green trees, or you can hear the birds, or it's a way to stimulate your senses. And if you're eating, then you're also enjoying the sense of eating as well. But it's very, very nurturing to be out there. And then, getting a little bit of sun to give you some vitamin D, which should help stabilize your mood. Just being outside. If you can be outside and have lunch with yourself or with a friend, that's huge. It's a huge way to fill your cup very easily and very quickly. Go for a walk with family or friends. We talked about this a little bit already. If you're doing that already, fantastic. Getting out there, and that's the time where there's no distractions. So typically, if you're going for a walk, you're probably not on your phone. So that's the time to spend with your kids, catching up on how their day was and talking about your day. That's the time to talk with your spouse about plans for vacations, or just how, do a check-in with them. For your friends, it's a way to kind of vent about life in general. So going for a walk with family or friends is a great way to reconnect with those individuals, as well as getting outside so you can be replenished by the surroundings. And then plan a camping trip or a beach weekend. We can't always do that, but if we can do a mini getaway, the idea of planning the vacation actually can bring us some oxytocin hormones in our body. So I think it's every 8 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks. If we're planning a vacation, 6 or 8 weeks before we even go on vacation, if we're planning it, we're already getting the benefit from that by just planning. So think about it. When we know we're going on vacation, and then we can imagine what that's going to be like, we can imagine the things we're going to do, we can imagine who we're doing it with, and so we can already begin to get those benefits, even though we haven't even gone on the vacation yet. And so my philosophy is always, every plan a vacation, go on the vacation, then plan another vacation. So constantly planning a vacation every 8 weeks out, that should keep you in that good space, if that's a possibility. But try to do what you can to spend time outside, as just being out in the open can be very, very, very healing, and healing for all of us.
And think about it too. I mean, it says spend time outside. How about spend time outside of your office, right? I mean, for the last 15 years, we had no kitchen in our office. And last August, we moved to a new facility that had a dedicated kitchen with like 4 lunch tables. And so it forces me now to say, all right, I'm going to leave my office and go eat lunch somewhere else, right? So I may not be able to go outside all the time. Living in Cleveland will do that to you, but I can at least get outside of my office where I'm not sitting there and working. I'm forcing myself to take that break. So again, and even, go for a walk around the office, go for a walk outside. Do you have sidewalks? Do you have the ability to just go out, come back? Doesn't always have to be that, beautiful mountain and that camp there to say that's where I'm going to go walk. Sometimes it's just about practicing gratitude. Okay. I have a sign in my office that says, what if today we were just grateful for everything? Okay. Simple reminder for, especially for us as government workers. I mean, we're always finding things to complain about. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because I want people to be able to get things off their chest. But too often, I think we forget about just being grateful for, for what we have and for what opportunities we've been given. So maybe it's some simple things like writing it down. Keeping a gratitude journal. Do we have something that we can memorialize? We've got whiteboards all over our office. We've got a whiteboard in this wellness room that I'm sitting in, where we write things that we're grateful for. Can we perform anonymous acts of kindness? And they don't have to necessarily be anonymous, any kind of act of kindness, however small. If you've ever done something like paying for someone's coffee, or, helping somebody out, I volunteer a lot. Those aren't necessarily anonymous, but it brings me immense joy to be able to, help somebody else out. And especially as a leader, when I go out on warrants with the team, or when I, have a few hours of freedom to where I can say, hey, what can I do for you? What cases can I help you with? That goes a long way in terms of, my folks feeling grateful, or feeling that gratitude, allowing me to practice that gratitude on a daily basis. And I think the final thing here, I don't think we do that enough. I don't think we compliment others enough. And that's so easy, right? It's saying thank you. It's telling someone, even though their job is to do the same thing day in and day out, and that's what our folks do. I still try and remind myself how important it is to, say, hey, great job today, or you really went above and beyond, and I appreciate what you're doing. I mean, almost every email I send, no matter who it's to, has the words thank you in it. If someone does something small for me, if someone does something that, needs to be recognized, I want to thank them for that. I have these things right here. Okay, they're called awesome citations, right? They're little pads posted. I write a quick handwritten note to somebody and I give it to them. I put it on their bulletin board. You'd be amazed at what a handwritten note in this day and age can do to someone's morale and their just idea that they're appreciated. So, hopefully you have some things that you're doing with your own folks. If you're a leader, this thing costs me a few bucks at a local bookstore. And again, Amazon It's one of the best services as far as finding things that say to people, hey, they went above and beyond, or they're thinking about gratitude and they're complimenting me beyond just that passing in the hall, thanks, keep doing what you're doing.
Practicing mindfulness is so important. What do we mean by mindfulness? Staying in the moment. Oftentimes, we as humans get into the practice of worrying about what's going to happen in the future and then having regrets or concerns about what happened in the past. And I know that you've all heard this before, but I'll repeat it again. There's nothing we can do about what happened in the past. We can't change it. We can't go back. And we can't do anything about the future. We can prepare for the future as much as we can, but once we've done our preparation work, there's nothing else we can do. So worrying about it isn't going to make any difference. So staying in the moment and making the most of that moment can be so important and so valuable. If we are supposed to be spending time with our friends or family or kids, and while we're doing that, we're thinking about yesterday or tomorrow, or we're checking in on things on social media, or if we're doing other things, that's going to take away from the moment we have right there with the people we love. So checking in with yourself, are you staying in the moment, or are you wasting this moment because you're in the past or the future? If you're able to stay in that mind space or the mindfulness place, it will create headspace for you. It creates that space to be able to savor what's going on right now, to look around you and say, I am so happy and content that I have my dogs with me, or that I have my partner with me, or that even though this doesn't seem like something really big, we're all sitting around here enjoying a meal together. It's not a 5-star meal, it's just mac and cheese, but I'm with the people I love and we're having a good experience, and this is a wonderful, wonderful thing that I get to do. So being able to stay in the moment and create that mindfulness creates headspace. And then it increases our focus. Again, if we're focused on the past or the future, we're not focused on what's happening now, and this is the only time we can do something. So if I'm trying to get some emails done, or I'm trying to get a report done, and I'm thinking about last week or next week, my focus is not on my report, and there's a greater likelihood that I will make mistakes. So focus on what you're doing in the moment. And again, it does keep you in the moment. If you are paying attention, you're going to be more effective, more efficient, and overall you should feel more rested because you're not trying to chase yesterday or tomorrow. And then be kind to yourself. I can't say this enough. I was doing a training yesterday for some mental health providers, and we had a long conversation about being kind to yourself because, again, they talked about how much they did for other people, and they didn't want to take the time for themselves because they thought that felt selfish. Show yourself the compassion. Treat yourself the way you would your best friend or your partner or your child. If your best friend said, I'm feeling really overwhelmed and I just need to take the afternoon off, would you tell your best friend, well, you're a loser, that you just need to push on, that if you can't do it, then there's got to be something wrong with you? Probably not. But do we say those things to ourselves? Very often. So we need to show ourselves compassion. We need to show ourselves, have that love for ourselves that we deserve. And then recognize we're only human. You know, we can only do so much. And just because we are able to do a lot of things doesn't mean that doing a lot of things is good for us. So maybe we can work 15 hours a day and only get, a few hours sleep. Certainly, but is that good for us? In the long run, is that going to make us who we want to be? Is that going to help us be better? Is that going to be closer to our family? We are only human, and so as a consequence, we need to remember to treat ourselves that way. And then respect what your body is saying. If you are sitting at your computer and it's now, you've been in the office since 7 o'clock in the morning and it's now 9:30 at night and you're beginning to nod off because you're exhausted or you're having tension in your shoulders, really, is that important that you stay there, or do you need to respect your body and try to do what you can to get home so you can be rested and come back the next day? Remembering to be kind to yourself is very, very important, and it's that crucial part of what Dave and I were talking about in the beginning of the training. if you were a car, would you let yourself run on gas fumes? No, because you know you'd run out of gas and then that wouldn't be good. So by that same token, you need to make sure that you are doing what you can to treat yourself with respect and kindness.
Now, if you're a fan of The Office, you know that it's the last show you're going to watch for leadership advice, right? Or what a good, well-run office looks like. But if there was anything that Michael Scott did well at Dunder Mifflin, it was the party planning committee, right? He knew how to throw a party. That group spent more time planning parties and outings than they actually did probably working. But what I like about that show is just how much it highlighted the fact that that office had a good time. Okay, they knew how to celebrate. Um, Now, maybe they celebrated more of their personal successes and their personal milestones in life than they did actually selling paper. But it's important to celebrate, the things in your life, not necessarily your work milestones, although that's something that we do. When we have a good warrant or we have a good case that is prosecuted, we celebrate people for that. But just as important, we're celebrating birthdays, we're celebrating milestones. We had a coworker who last year developed leukemia, and she's coming up on her 1 year anniversary of being cancer free. And so we're going to celebrate that, both in the office as well as out of the office. We follow each other on social media. We watch what other people are doing. We want to know, what goes on outside of work. That's why I think, this idea of planning and preparing for, happy hours, birthday parties in the office, go a long way. We have a digital bulletin board that, if it's your birthday in that month, your name goes up there so that we know we can celebrate you on that day or the day before or the day after, and, set aside time to make that happen. Okay. And I think that's the importance of what we've talked about today here is being mindful of things that are happening, that are coming up, that are going on outside of work, and then planning and taking the time to make those things happen. And that's really where, we start to celebrate things in life.
And then also planning ahead. Although we can't plan everything, we don't want to plan everything really. Let's plan for the next day. Let's just plan for the things that we know need to be done so that we have some sense of control over that. And then recognizing also that those plans might go south because life happens. So what are the things that I would like to get done today, and in what priority would I like to get them done? And then planning for difficult discussions. So if I know that I'm going to have a conversation with somebody and I'm concerned about it because I don't think it's going to go well, what do I need to do to be prepared? Do I need to write some notes down for myself? Do I need to call in for support and roll over what I'm going to say? Do I need to kind of role play it and say, this is what I'm thinking about saying, how do you think that sounds? Plan for stressful situations. Again, if you're going to be doing a warrant, if you're going to be doing having to talk to a coworker about something, about anything that happened that wasn't necessarily what we would have liked, plan for that. It's much better to have a plan than to just try to wing it and then not be prepared and have it come out the way you wouldn't like it. So planning for your next day by making sure you've got the priorities on that list and then check it off. Planning for difficult discussions by thinking about what you want to say and writing that down, and planning for stressful situations by making sure that you know what you want to do and how you want to do it and who you want involved in that process. And then after the fact, reflect what went well. When I get to the end of the day and I'm in bed, I think, what went well today? And when I think about that, I also think what didn't. So when I think what went well, I can think, okay, I know this and this and this went well, and why did it go well? And is that different from how it's gone in the past? Because what can I learn from that? So I try to make each situation a learning opportunity. And then I think about what are the things that didn't go well, and why is that the case? And again, I'm wanting to know how I can do things better. And then how can I improve? So is there something that I can do to make the situation go better the next time? Is there something that I can do to make things go more smoothly, to make it better for myself, to better for my team? How can I improve? Because if I can improve, I would like to do that so that maybe I don't have those same difficulties next time.
And I think the same goes for, what you can improve with your work environment, right? I mean, you may have a small cubicle. You may have an office that was selected for you. Your area may not be as ideal as what you'd like. But what can you do to improve that environment, right? On that last slide there, we saw that question, what can you do to improve? There are things that you can do, small things that might improve, your office space, right? A fake plan, some sort of, wellness gadget or tool or photos, right? I mean, think about how your office space is organized, okay? Because that's extremely important depending on what kind of work you're doing, right? So, in my office is split in half because I work child exploitation every single day. I don't necessarily want the personal side of my office on the child exploitation side, right? If you see my office, there's a clear line where I have to physically turn around to see the pictures of my children, to see the pictures of my family, the personal things that I have in the office. Those are all sort of towards my window because what that does is then it forces me to turn away from the computer every so often to take a break, and then I can see those photos. I don't want to be looking at child abuse material and have a photo of my kids right there next to my monitor. I'm going to start to equate, what I'm seeing at work with, I'm going to flash back. Maybe that photo that I see on my computer makes me flash back to that photo of my kids and vice versa. So spend some time organizing your office, right? I've seen some offices throughout the years that are just they look like a bomb went off in there, and I just wonder how people can work like that, or how they stay organized like that. Sometimes, I'll take a few minutes every week on a Friday, and I'll just, I'll dust and I'll straighten things, and I'll get ready for the next week. That goes a long way in, getting me where I need to be. Do you have a boss, or are you a leader that gets things for your people, right? I've said to my folks all along, I want to be able to provide things to you. Okay. So if they need something in their office, if they need something out in the field, one of my jobs that I see myself as is the guy that gets it. Okay. If they can do their job better with these pieces of equipment, I'm going to try and get it for them. Okay. Now they've tried to get some crazy things by me over the years, and I've said, hey, that's just not in the cards. But if there are little things that I can do, better pens, a better stapler. I mean, we got staplers for people one day that they were great staplers, and people raved about them. It was a simple thing that we could do from the typical county staplers that we had years ago. And then in this new space we've got now, and I mentioned this earlier, we have a wellness room, or a reboot space, that I'm sitting in right now. It's a room that's, probably only 8 by 8. It's the only room in the office that has a ceiling on it. But it's a place where people can come, close the door, and have 5 or 10 minutes of themselves. It has a Keurig in it. It has a little refrigerator. It has a TV with a gaming system in it. The lights are, they go on and off automatically. I went out and bought a little salt lamp on Amazon. And it says on the door, it says wellness room, and there's a thing you slide that says in use or available. And people come in, they close the door, they get 10 minutes, and they go right back to work. So, and again, it was some space we had, and we were able to do the whole thing relatively cheap. We got a lot of donations as far as furniture. It was just a space that we set aside. And again, it said to people that wellness and mental health is important enough that we have our own space in this office to allow people to use. And so that brings us to our next chat question. Again, if you wouldn't mind taking some time, put some of these answers in the box there. What would your ideal workspace include? And I always love this question because it's always interesting to see what people want in their workspace that would make it ideal.
Yes, I agree. I always think for my own workspace, if it was going to be ideal, I would definitely have at least 1 or 2 of my dogs. And I would have a diffuser, and I would have unlimited green tea. Yeah. Some
Plants?
nice
Okay.
calming, some green plants. Yeah, some plants. I would have that. Yep. My cats. Yep. Lots of tea and plants. Okay, I'm coming to your location there because that's what I want too. You said, okay. Well, it is your ideal workspace.
If your office could be outdoors, it'd be the perfect workspace. I would agree
Yeah.
with that.
Good or varied lighting, natural light, fresh air, plants, kids artwork. Yeah, great. Great.
Yeah, you know, we
Yeah.
for years we had no windows in our old office, and when we moved into this new facility, it was amazing the difference that large windows, the natural light coming in made. I mean, it was almost instantaneous that people, you know, went from the fluorescent lighting to the natural lighting, just the difference that it made. So that's important as well.
Exactly. Exactly. Well, thank you
And you know,
everybody for, go ahead.
I was just going to say, too often, you know, especially as it relates to what we do in the internet crimes world, you know, management wants to put you in the basement. They want to put you away or be secluded from other people. I think it's important that, you know, if you're doing work that involves children or abuse or anything that's sensitive, that you push back against this idea that you need to be secluded. Because, you know, when that happens, what management is really saying is that your work's not good enough to be, you know, out there with everybody else. And that happened early on in my career. I had an office where they basically said, you know, there's a little window next to your door. We want you to put paper over that because we don't want people walking by and seeing what you're looking at on the computer. And I said, these are all law enforcement officers. These folks deal with just similar things daily. It just really set me off and said, hey, I've got to basically be sectioned off from people and put out there by myself. And so we worked to, you know, kind of work through some of those issues.
Yeah. So, and paying attention to relationships is absolutely key. We know that in order to be resilient, you need to have and use social support. So if you don't have those relationships, one of the things that you want to think about is how can you increase that? Doesn't mean you have to have lots and lots of friends. A few close friends, relatives, coworkers that you spend time with outside of work, that's all that it takes. So do you have healthy communication skills in your relationships? When something's bothering you, do you feel comfortable talking about that with someone, or do you hold on to it till you get mad and then there's a fight and that's how it gets dealt with? Do you resolve conflicts when they arise? And so again, if there's an issue, do you stuff it till it blows up to be a big thing, or do you deal with it and then move forward? And then do you nurture relationships? Do you take the time to check in with your friends and family when it's not a holiday, when it's just because, when you're thinking about them, when they cross your mind? Do you do little things that might make a huge deal? So maybe you're in the store and you know that your kid loves, you're at the grocery store and you know your kid loves chocolate ice cream and they've got chocolate ice cream on sale. Do you go ahead and get that just to say, hey, I was thinking about you? What are the things that you're doing to nurture relationships? Because all of those things are so important when you're needing that support.
And I'm
And then,
sure you have, I have no doubt that you've heard this before, right? Stop me if this doesn't sound familiar to you. In the event of a loss of cabin pressure, oxygen masks will fall from overhead. To start the flow of oxygen, reach up and pull the mask towards you, fully extending the plastic tubing. Place the mask over your nose and mouth and slip the elastic band over your head. To tighten the fit, pull the tab on each side of the mask. The plastic bag does not need to inflate for oxygen to be flown. Be sure to secure your own mask before helping others. I'm thinking of another career in the airline industry, so I practiced that quite a bit. But I think it's an extremely important approach when we talk about self-care, right? If we're not taking care of ourselves, we're not going to be able to help the people next to us. And I recognize that that's sort of something we hear when the flight attendants talk about emergencies. But it's something that we should be doing every day. It's an approach that we should be taking, not only when there's an emergency, but, every single day as we talk about self-care and being aware. I think it's a good reminder of why it's important that we, first take care of ourselves so that we can help our family, help our coworkers, help those people in our lives. And I
then
don't,
Go ahead.
no, I'm sorry,
Go
go
ahead,
ahead,
Dave.
Carol. Nope, that's you.
I was just going to say, make sure that you're taking time for fun. And even if you have to schedule it, I know some people say it's not fun if you have to schedule it, it needs to be spontaneous. If you do plan for it, then people can be prepared. They can really think, I've got this to look forward to. I know we're going to have some fun doing something silly, doing something important, just enjoying time together. So putting it on the calendar is not necessarily a bad thing at all. And try to do something fun each day, whether that's like we do at my house and we have dance party in the morning, or whether it's something it's fun for you means playing with your dogs, your cats, your kids, spending time with your friends on the phone, binge watching a television show, whatever it is that's going to be fun for you to do that replenishing. Starting a new hobby is a great thing if you can have something new that takes your time. I mean, Dave was talking about doing his scuba. Is that right? Scuba diving. Is that right, Dave? Yeah.
Yep.
So started a new hobby, and I'm sure it was fun initially learning about it. It was fun mastering it, and it's fun now just maintaining the level of enjoyment that you can have. So great thing to do. And then get outside your comfort zone. The reason that this is useful is because it uses new brain skills and it creates new neural pathways, which are going to be good for you and your brain health.
And Carol, you'd be amazed at how easy it is to have fun at work too, right? I mean, we talk about fun at home, we talk about new hobbies. I never like using the word fun. People, I say we try and have fun with this job, but we need to have some fun, right? And I'll give you one of the best little things you can do, okay? A Nerf gun, right? I know we've talked about this before, but go out, spend $10 on a Nerf gun. If you really want to get some laughs in the office, or if you've just got some coworkers that every now and then, need to be put in their place, there is a benefit to having a Nerf gun in your desk drawer. Okay.
Well, it certainly takes people by surprise, and it makes people laugh. And it doesn't mean you have to go for the face, right? You can just
Right.
Yes.
Neck and below. Okay. Please don't go back to your boss and tell them that the Innocent Justice Foundation told you to shoot people in the face with a Nerf gun.
Right.
But it does. I will say we've got 7 or 8 of them in the office. Every now and then a little fight breaks out, and it's 5 minutes of just not thinking about work, and then we go right back to doing what we're paid to do.
Well, and I'm sure, being that you're all officers, you probably have a pretty good aim, right? So you don't have to worry about, not so much?
You would think so, but no, we've got some very poor shots. So.
Well, I guess that's something they can start working on, right? Okay. So self-improvement. So learning a new work-related skill. Dave, maybe for your team, that work-related skill is going to the shooting range so they can learn, they can be better at doing their shooting.
Yes.
But, if there's something that you're interested in and it relates to your work and you think it might make your job easier, talk to your supervisor, talk to those people in charge to say, I'm really interested in learning this. It will help me in my work. Is this a possibility for the office to pay for this or give me the time off so I can learn this? Because honestly, if it's something that's going to make your work easier and it's going to make you a better employee, that would be a great thing to do. Think about how you want to grow. So for me, I'm constantly thinking about, is there some new skill I can add to my life, my work life, my home life, that will make me happier, better, more settled, because I do want to grow. I think life is so short for us, and if we are remaining stagnant, that just doesn't feel good to me. Now, there's plenty of people that are perfectly content with staying in their lane and not doing anything new, and there's nothing wrong with that. For me, I like to always add new things in. I like to learn new things, and when I master something, I want to learn something new. So gain knowledge that makes my job easier. I am always doing research on the latest things coming up in wellness and coming up in the field of happiness, of wellness, of resilience, because I want to know if there's anything new out there that I haven't learned. There's constantly research being done. So if research is happening, did they learn something new that I can then share with others? I know everybody on this call doesn't have time to spend an hour or so a day or a week looking up new ways to be resilient. Well, I can take that on as part of my job. I can gain that knowledge, and then I can share it with others. And so for me, I love to do that because it's something, a new skill or a new knowledge that I have, and then being able to share it with others makes it that much better.
You know, for years we talked about this idea that we should, create a mental health and wellness program. And it was during those years that, we really didn't get anything off the ground. So you really want to make sure that you leave out this idea that you should do something. It wasn't until we said that, we want to create a mental health program and we need to create a mental health program that we really started to see some traction, in terms of taking care of each other and taking care of ourselves. So, we I don't want to say we forced ourselves, but at some point we realized that we needed to do this. Um, and so thankfully through some funding from our prosecutor and from the realization that we needed to create a program, we got the buy-in from our agency as well as our folks who said, yes, we understand why this is important and we want to do this. So I would just caution you, get the word should out of your vocabulary when it comes to this idea of, wellness, mental health, resiliency, self-care. I think it takes a lot of the pressure away from what we're trying to do as we continue to smash these stigmas. And I think, this next slide is pretty self-explanatory. We've talked about a lot of these things already. Recognizing that you deserve self-care, that you should be able to take time each week for yourself. I think, when we talk about that indicator, that needle, right? If you're not finding some time, in a week to take some time for yourself, that's going to be one of those trouble indicators. Seeking support from others, that should be a little easier now. I'm not saying it's going to be the easiest thing in the world after these sessions, but understand that, there are a lot of folks that are in the same boat that you're in, whether you're a leader or not. Are there people that you can seek support from who understand or might begin to understand some of the things that you're going through? And I think that last bullet point there is just so very important, right? Is that anything that we practice, anything that we make a habit, makes it easier, right? And so to make our self-care a habit, to practice our self-care every day, before you know it, it's just going to become a routine thing that you're doing for yourself and for others.
And the idea of making self-care a habit to me is so key. The way for me to begin a new habit, honestly, is to write it in my calendar on my phone, and then I get a message saying, you've got this coming up. It's if I want to make sure that my new habit of reading an article a week or something is going to happen, I put it on my calendar Friday at 3:00 in the afternoon. I schedule an hour and it pops up. And then eventually I get into the habit of reading that new resiliency article or the new wellness article, the new happiness article once a week. And so it becomes a habit. But we can't just hope our way into creating habits. We can't just wish our way into creating habits. We need to actually take the actions. And sometimes that means having a habit building buddy. And sometimes that means calendaring it. But it's not going to happen unless we put in the effort to make it into a habit. So what is one new tool you have learned today? And feel free to write whatever it is in the chat. Schedule play relaxation time. Great. Great. I need to set time aside. Yep. Oh, there's a lot of things coming in now. Checking my indicators. Taking time for self-care before taking care of others. Yep. Checking at the beginning of the day. Planning for stressful events. Yep. So, David, seems like the information because people are coming up with some ideas here.
Yeah, I like it. Me first, right? Say no and me first.
Yep. Yep. Say no. Saying no, it doesn't seem like that would be such a big deal, but I think it really is. I think many of us were trained that if you're a nice person, if you're a kind person, if you're a good person, you don't tell people no. And saying no is a selfish thing, and it really isn't. Saying no is a wonderful thing for ourselves that gives us the opportunity to say yes to the really important things. Develop an end-of-the-day routine where I plan and prioritize the next day. I like to do that too, to just, before I go home, before I close out work for the day, I like to have a list so that I can be ready for the next day. Improving your workspace. Yep. Great answers, everybody. Thank you.
Thank you.
And then recognizing that when we do start a new habit, the reality is there will be ups and downs. It's probably not going to be smooth sailing. I know at the beginning of the year, I always try to spend the first month of the year doing yoga every day because I know that if I don't set the routine to do that, I'm not going to do it. And then I know that if I can get it through the first 30 days of the month or of the year doing yoga, then it will increase the likelihood that I will do it more. It doesn't mean that every day I'm going to be doing it for the rest of the year, but I think if I get 30 days or 31 days in for the first of the year, that's good because reality is that we work one step forward, maybe one step back, maybe 3 steps forward, 1 step back, but that's just the nature of life, right? And so by accepting that things will not be 100% smooth and that's okay, that's a great place to start.
Well said. So hopefully we've given you some nuggets of information today on how to become an effective leader as it relates to self-care and mental health and wellness. We've obviously discussed the importance of wellness while in a leadership role. As I said earlier, I think it's so important that we take a sort of a front line or we get out ahead of this as leaders to just talk about how important it is to focus on mental health and wellness because I think it sends the right message to those folks that we lead or supervise. We learned a little bit about the importance of self-compassion for success and talked about some of the steps needed to create an effective and resilient team. I think at the end of the day, it's just about those habits and that foresight to put that out there and keep the pressure on something that is so important for everybody.
And there's our contact info if you need to get a hold of us. Please reach out. We are always more than happy to answer any kind of questions that we can. We love to hear from people and we support people, everyone that reaches out to us the best way we can.
Yes, thank you so much, Carol and Dave. Always a lot of great information to take away from both of you. I know I always learn so much. As Carol said, this is our contact information if anyone has any questions. And please join us for part 4 of our webinar series. It's Building an Effective Team on July 18th. We did have quite a few questions in our pre-registration. If there are any questions that Dave or Carol would like to address that stood out, that'd be great.
I know we only have about 2 minutes. There's nothing in particular that really stuck out with me. Dave, was there anything that you think that I could answer, you could answer, or that we kind of missed?
I think we touched on some of the questions. I'm just trying to go through these and see if there's anything that stands out. There were a number of questions about, preventing vicarious trauma, preventing burnout. Again, that can be those can be very insidious in terms of, how they come up. And obviously, if you're dealing with employees that are going through things that are, a little more concerning to you than the normal, something normal in the office. I think that's where you need to sit down with people, start reaching out. Maybe there's some resources that you can provide or that the agency can provide. The nice thing with our mental health program is that it's, completely anonymous. We have someone like Carol that our folks can go to without fear of any kind of fitness for duty or assessment type of a scenario. And they can get some help that they need from someone who's licensed or trained more so than I might be. So I think it's just taking the temperature of the office, understanding, what people are going through in a normal scenario, and then what if they're being affected, where you can recognize that and get them some help.
And Dave, that brings up a good point, because if we can encourage people to do self-care, that's going to really increase their window of tolerance, their ability to tolerate stressful events. So if you have a good window of tolerance, it's less likely that you will be impacted by your work. You will be less likely to be impacted by vicarious trauma, because you will have your cup will be full. Your cup will be full of wellness, and so you'll be able to tolerate the difficult things that come through in your work. So, yeah, thanks, Dave, for highlighting the vicarious trauma piece.
Are you guys going to answer any more questions, or should I go ahead and close out?
I think you can go ahead, Eileen.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much. Just a few things, our closing announcements. If you need to contact us for any reason, here's our contact information. And TTA 360 is how you request training from Shift. So if you'd like to request this training, go ahead and make an account. You can always email us with any questions about the system. And this will be recorded and posted on OJJDP's pages. And here's our email if you have any questions about the webinar or TTA 360 or even the program. So I just want to say thank you everyone for attending, and we'd really appreciate it if you filled out the feedback survey. I hope everyone has a great day. Thank you.
Bye-bye.